size 8 brush.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's it. We don't need anything else. Again, same setup, same ingredients. We have our safflower oil, we have our liquid. This time, the only difference is we are gonna start the other way around. We're not gonna start with the lightest colors. We are going to start with the darkest colors. Now, why is that? Why are we doing it this way? And the reason is, well, there aren't any light colors here. It's pretty much all a dark painting, apart from this part and the small highlights here inside the iris and also on the lower eyelid here. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And the way we are going to create this is by leaving it just the way it is. This is as white as you can paint. There's no paint in the world that will make this painting surface whiter. So we're not going to paint it. We're just going to leave it. And also, the thing that I'm now most concerned with is getting all the color relationships right. Now, what does that mean? It means that what is the darkest color here? It is the inside of the iris, and also like the shadow here on the eyelid. And that is the darkest part of the painting. So why not just use pure black to paint this area, at least? Doesn't get much darker than that. So that's what I'm going to do. So it's actually the opposite from what we did before. Instead of painting the lightest areas, we are painting the darkest areas. Okay. So one thing that you might be noticing is how I hold the brush. People ask me all the time, why are you holding the brush like here instead of here? And the reason is, one, I want to be as far away from the painting as possible. But there's also another reason, and that is, if you use the brush like this here, and our engineer Alexis will be able to tell us probably.
Has a larger lever arm?
Exactly. And what does it mean? The large lever doesn't translate into much movement on the tip of the brush. So I can do this, I can move my hand, and there's not much happening. See how much I can move my hand without doing anything. Now look at the same movement when I do it here. What happens?
It's
So
directly on the surface.
Yeah. So the tiny movement I'm doing is translated directly into a movement at the tip of the brush, but here it's different. So I can do some adjustments while I'm drawing a line, for example. Let me show you. When I hold the brush here and I'm drawing a line, let's say like so, I can still do some adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Without introducing a lot of error. When I do it this way, it gets, can you see it, how difficult it gets? Because the tip of the brush moves. And that's basically it. That's the reason why I'm holding the brush this way. So, only thing I'm doing right now is painting all the dark areas. Nothing more. I don't think about anything else. I only think about introducing the darkest areas of the painting. Like this. that I'm using a small brush because my hand is not that steady. And what I'm doing here, as I said, the white of the paper is the whitest, well, is as white as it gets, so we're just leaving it. It's basically as if you were painting with watercolor. Maybe this area here too, but doesn't really matter. Could have also painted it at a later point, but what the heck? Let's do it this way. Okay. Now, doesn't look like much now, but you have to be patient. You have to slowly creep up on the final painting. So what's next? What are we going to do next? Well, the next thing we want to do is think about how can we build up this painting in a sensible way. Just as with the cube, how can we do it in a way that we don't run into any trouble later in the process? As like, let's say, once I've painted this part here, whenever I'm painting the inside of the eye, I will always have to think about the lower, is it the lower eyelid? Yeah. I will always have to think about not ruining the lower eyelid. But I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the eye in the exact order that the eye is here. So the furthest from us is the iris and the white of the eye, and then I'm going to put the eyelids on top, just as in real life. And that is also something that you might want to think about. Basically, whatever you paint, whenever you can, it makes sense to replicate the natural order of things. So let's say I want to paint the easel here, and then I want to paint the wood panel. Then it makes sense to paint the easel first and then to put the wood panel on top. Because also this is a much more complex shape than this. This is just basically a straight line. But think about what you have to do if you painted this first, like this, and then you have to paint all of this. It's almost impossible. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to start with the iris, and then I'm going to work my way to the white of the eye, and then I'm going to end with painting the eyelids. And what I'm going to do now is introduce some color, because as you can see, we have painted the darkest area of the iris, and this part here is lighter than the darkest area. And this part is also lighter than the iris here. And that is all we have to think about, nothing else. It doesn't matter if it's the same color, it doesn't matter if it's a bit more blue or a bit more red. The only thing that matters is the relationship between these three things. Dark, lighter, lighter still. Okay, so. Again, can you see or can you guess what I'm doing here has in common with the cube? I'm not really too concerned with the outside boundary of the iris, because I'm gonna go and clean it up once I paint the white around the eye. So no need to be overly concerned with that at this point. Right now, the only thing that matters is getting the inside of the iris right.
So I am curious, you just mentioned that you try and build from the back up, and that's the little bit of art knowledge I have. That's something that I learned. And so I was curious why beforehand you said you weren't starting with the background. How do you distinguish between when you do and when you don't do that?
Well, you always have to do it on a case-by-case basis, you know. Why didn't we do it with the cube? Well, the reason is because it's much harder to paint the boundary of the cube than to paint the negative space. I was just explaining it to Max, and I can do so here. Hadi, I'm gonna use you as an, what do you say?
Guinea pig.
Guinea pig, yeah. So I'm gonna give you a bit of paint. Can you paint a line? Just a line. Okay, great.
Wrong, you started with like.
That is. So, you can paint a line like that. But when I paint a line, I paint it like this. Can you see the line?
You mean the negative space?
Exactly. This, by painting the negative space around the line, I have created a line. And that is one of the most important basic principles in painting you have to understand. Painting the negative is just as important and just as right and valid as painting the positive of something. There are times where you can only paint something like this, but there are also times where you can only paint something like that. For example, a great case where you might want to do it that way is, let's say you have a somewhat dark surface and you want to put like a light pattern on top. Let's say spots. Okay? You can do it this way, doesn't make any sense, but you can do it. But you can also do it like this. This is a white spot, this is a white spot, this is a white spot. White spot number 1, white spot number 2, and you get the idea, of course, right? And these are only simple round shapes, but if you imagine painting like something intricate, like embroidery or something like that, you have to paint it this way. Otherwise, putting this intricate pattern on top is a lot harder than doing it this way. Yeah. But I'm digressing. So back to the eye. What I'm doing here is lightening up the bottom part of the iris. Also introducing a bit more saturation.
also really excited about the eye.
Actually, I'm gonna maybe turn on some music. First, let me try to paint this. I'm also doing some like light cross hatching here because it's just a bit easier for me to paint a gradient this way. Okay, now I can already go back into dark areas. Make this. Oops. Okay, let's leave it like this for the moment. Then I'm gonna paint the white around it. And now the only thing I have to be concerned with is making it just slightly lighter than this area. That's what I'm gonna do. So let's see. Maybe a bit more.
Sieht schon toll aus. No?
Yeah. Say, is it always this peaceful when you paint? Do you always require it to be this peaceful when you paint? That was ironisch.
Ach so. Ironisch.
The music is a negative space.
Ist das toll.
And then I'm reminded.
Feel free to ask.
So now all the colors in the eyes seem to get, there's almost no contrast. I mean, now you put black on black on top, or now it all mucks together in the eyes. For me, I mean, the colors are very similar. No? It's almost, for me, hard to see the outline of the iris.
Yeah, I'm gonna paint it next. That's actually what I'm going to do now.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because this needs to be very, or not very, but it needs to be soft. In order to create that, I'm going to have to do it this way.
Toll.
blending it with colors?
Yeah. Light enough? Can you see?
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, I can also move the.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay. Actually, I might use a bit more green just to look a bit more interesting.
Green is this?
This is green.
Okay.
Just any green will do.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, it's much better. Because this area, well, the iris itself is a bit more green. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to copy what you see there exactly, but I kind of want to make this a bit more green.
And why are you holding the brush
Mhm.
like that now? To be more
Because when
precise.
cross-hatching, I'm not cross-hatching with my arm, I'm cross-hatching with my finger.
Because you're just
Ah, okay.
I just want to do like small cross-hatching like this.
like, okay.
If I do this,
Ah.
it's like
okay.
a robot painting. It doesn't really work. So I have to do it this way.
Ah, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna mess it up now. Oh, that's my coffee. Thank you. Oops. Okay. Let's go back here. I'm gonna darken it up a bit more.
Mm.
For now, I'm going to leave it like this, just so we can make some progress. The rest is actually going to be pretty quick, because this area is dark, and there's a bit like a small light spot somewhere. This is pretty dark too, like that.
Mm.
This is also quite dark, but lighter than the part above. And now you see why I'm painting it now. You see how much control I have over the boundary of the eye when I do it this way.
Nice.
There you go. And then the same here. This is actually dark. Darker here. Okay. This area
Looks so simple when you do it.
Yeah.
It is pretty simple actually. You just have to do what I say. That's it. Exactly. Readjusting this area. I want to make it a bit softer and also a bit darker. Okay. And now we can also move into this area here. That is also a bit lighter. But actually, here's a brush that's a bit bigger on that part. And as you can see, I didn't use that much painting medium this time. There are no large areas that I need to fill out quickly, so also no need to use any medium, because what happens when you use too much medium, it thins down the paint, and paint that is thinned down loses some of its vibrancy, and we don't want that. We want it to be as vibrant as it can be. So here again, I'm painting the boundary of the eyelid, like this. And also this area. Now comes the fun part. Now I'm gonna paint all these lighter areas. And because I was so thoughtful that I painted all this first, it's gonna be pretty easy. So for example, I'm gonna paint this area like so. Okay, then I'm gonna paint this area on the bottom. But can you see this tiny reflection? White? We're gonna leave that because we actually need that. Other than that, and now I need a very steady hand, and that is also why I'm resting my wrist now.
Okay.
Because it's just a bit easier this way.
Personal question. Most of the time when I'm at home painting, I'm drinking red wine in the other hand. Do you think that
like
helps?
All artists.
Do you think that helps steady, or do you think it adds that messy flair?
No.
Depends on the amount you drink.
Okay, glass 1 and 2 are probably
So
safe.
if you start one, you might stop shivering, but if you had the third or fourth glass, it might be the opposite.
Yeah.
I never got the appeal of mixing these things, you know, drinking and art and stuff like that, because you want to be very present when you're painting. Painting needs all your attention. And you can, and when you're finished, then when you can open a bottle of wine and you can drink.
Do you listen to music when you paint?
No.
Or any
Almost
kind of other?
never. Yeah.
So just silence?
I always listen to audiobooks.
Ah, okay.
What?
Audiobooks.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, always. Always. Because this is actually like driving a car for me. it happens automatically. I don't have to think that much. I have done this so often that my hand and my brain do it automatically. It has become an automotor skill for me, like driving. So it can be a bit boring, so I tend to listen to audiobooks. Okay, but now let's finish this part up so you can get to painting. A few brush strokes left. Right now, I'm not overly concerned with accuracy here, as you can see. I'm not trying to immediately get everything right. I only want the right relationships between the colors and the values. And that's the only thing basically I'm concerned with.
It's almost like you continue with the painting now from the center and just build on top out to the outside. Is this how you approach this?
The eye now, yes, that's very much what I'm doing. But it's different. It really depends on what you're painting. And now obviously there are some errors and there are some imperfections in here, but the relationships are there. It's basically almost done. From the distance, there's not going to be a dramatic change once I've finished it. But I'm gonna keep working on it, and I'm also gonna adjust areas so that you can, at the end of today, also get a glimpse of how this can look once you've put in all the time and effort it basically demands. So, for example, these areas. This area is even still too dark, too light. Excuse me. As you can see now, I'm doing just tiny adjustments, but it has a huge impact on the overall effect of the whole eye thing here. Yeah. But I'm not going to finish it because we're gonna do a second session once you've painted your version to this finish. We're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you how I would go about finishing this, and maybe we're gonna learn a few things. Okay? So that's as much